I'm going to take the other side of this tape, and with some slides that we have here, I'm going to try and make something for an assembly. I just wish I had all my slides, and I wish I'd been able to do what I'd planned to do, but people are too busy to ask them now, and, well, I just can't send you pictures of the library or this sort of thing, because we just don't have them. So I'm going to take some pictures here and try to talk as I would to a library group. I'll try, at least. Hello, I am Kit Porter, a Peace Corps volunteer, and also the daughter of your librarian. I'm living now in Micronesia with my husband. We are on the island of Rota in the Marianas district. Micronesia is divided into 6 districts. We've now lived in 2. When we originally came in July, we were in the truck district. We were there for 2 months, and in this district we had our training. This consisted of 10 hours of classes a day, 6 days a week, in which during this time we learned all about the Marianas. In September we came to the Marianas and began our assignment here on the island of Rota. Rota is between Guam and Saipan. It has a population of about 1,200. Most of the people are farmers. My husband and I are both teaching English in the school, which has about 300 students. It's an elementary school, goes up until the 9th grade. There's no high school on this island. Most of the students, when they get to high school age, go to Saipan or to Guam, if their parents will allow them to go. Otherwise, they stay here and work on the farm. Micronesia has been a trust territory of the United States government since the Second World War. Prior to that time, the Japanese were in charge of these islands. You can see evidence of this all over, in old gun sites and in caves and the old Japanese buildings and in the people themselves. Eventually, and possibly in 1972, there will be a vote in which the island people will decide if they want to be connected with the United States or if they want to be independent or exactly what they want to do. There's been a great deal of discussion about how ready they will be for this, and part of our job here is to help in educating the people and help to give them the ability to decide what they want. Teaching English is very important in that because there are 6 districts, there are 6 completely different languages, and one district cannot talk with another district because they do not have the same language. English gives them a common language which they can speak. We've seen this in practice. The island that we're on has just had a typhoon, and after the typhoon, people came from the government of Micronesia to give aid, and these men were from all over, Yap, Palau, Ponape, Truk, and the Marianas, and they were speaking in English, not because Americans were around, but because they had no other language to speak in. And this made us realize how important our job as English teachers is. It is not really important in itself that these people learn English, but it's important that they have a common language that they can speak. And because the United States is in charge of these islands now, and many positions are open for people who can speak English, it is important that this is the language. This comes around to the main reason for my making this tape, and that is our library. We have a small library which was begun last summer through donations from schools and people in the States. We have not many books. It was in a house that has been provided by the government. It is provided for contract teachers, but there are no contract teachers living it, so we were able to use it for a library. There were 2 bedrooms, and we had books in these rooms. And the school children were able to come up once a week and take out books. Being able to pick and choose books, all these books were in English, gives the children a further chance to continue their education in English and a further chance to learn about different places. My husband and I worked on Thursday nights in the library, and we would see sometimes 100 children come in and take out books. Many times they would take out books that would be too hard for them, as even the very few students in the 9th grade or even on an 8th grade reading level most students in the 9th grade are on a 6th or 5th grade reading level. So that we really need books that are easy enough to read, plus some that are on a normal reading level or are difficult for those who can read them. Hopefully, eventually, there will be quite a few people that can read any book that is printed in English, and there are adults who speak English very well. An island is very isolated in many ways, not only physically, but in the realms of what people know. Many people, this island is their entire world, and they do not know of other places. And books are a wonderful way to teach this, particularly books that have pictures and can help the people learn. I've been speaking partially in the present tense and the past tense. This is because with the typhoon that we've had, which was very serious, I know that none of you have seen a typhoon, but it's quite horrible. And after the typhoon, 80% of the houses were destroyed. Our library had its windows blown in, but because so many buildings were destroyed, they're going to have to use the building that the library was used to house people who are coming to help with agriculture, as all the crops were destroyed, and we may have trouble getting the farmers back on their feet again. So at this present time, we are without a library building. I hope by the time that your book drive is over for us that we will have found or built a place to have the books that we have, the ones that were not destroyed, and many of them were, and the books that we receive. We really depend on donations from you and from people that we know. These are the only books that we have, and I wish that you could all come and see the children reading them. And prior to the typhoon, I read for half an hour, 4 nights a week to the children. I aimed the books at the smaller children, but I would usually find older children listening and enjoying the stories very much. I'm going to narrate a few slides that I have here, and I hope my mother will show you some others. This first one was taken on UN Day. This is the biggest holiday here. You can see first grade children racing. Each class has a game that they play for the people. This next slide are second grade children also racing. Most of the children have races of one sort or another. This slide, the third slide is of children racing, and the fourth one is, you can see a boy just jumping over the winner's mark. There are prizes that are given out, cash prizes of various degrees. This next one is of children on a board that are also racing. I hope you can give you an idea of what the people look like. This whole series of slides, here's one of the girls walking with cups on their head. You can see the mountain, which is called the Savannah, in the background, and the area that is set up in the middle of town for this. This is a house, a typical house, made of tin and wood. I wish that we had not had the typhoon and that I had been able to follow through with plans that I made. I was going to have different people in the community speak, and children, and organize a series of slides. I have been unable to do this because of
Today is Friday, August 18, 2023. I am Kit Porter Van Meter, sharing with you the notes my mother, Jean Schoonmaker Jarman, wrote in December 1967 for an assembly at Oakmont Regional High School, where she was the librarian. Over the next year, the Student Council collected books and raised funds and sent books and equipment to the Rota School Library. This story will be continued in the next 3 YouTubes. My daughter Kit and her husband, Greg Porter, are Peace Corps volunteers on the island of Rota in the Pacific. This is one of the Mariana Islands, which in turn is part of Micronesia. Micronesia means tiny islands and includes the Marshalls and the Carolines, as well as the Marianas. Rota is between Guam and Saipan. The Marianas were discovered in 1521 by Magellan, who sighted Guam and Rota, and they were the first settled by the Spaniards. After the Spanish-American War, Spain sold Guam to the United States and the other islands to Germany. Then after World War I, the Marianas, by mandate, were under the League of Nations to be administered by the Japanese, with the exception of Guam. The Japanese were not supposed to fortify these islands, but they did, and as most of you know, they were the scenes of intensive fighting during World War II. The natives of the Marianas and Guam are Chamorros, and they speak Chamorro. No one knows their racial origin, which is different from that of other Western Pacific islands. They are known for having lighter skin, fine physique, and independent spirit. After World War II, the Mariana Islands came under the League of Nations and are in a trust to the United States, who are to administer them as the Trust Territory Islands. Much has been written about Micronesia lately, and there is a widespread feeling that the United States has neglected its responsibility to these islands, and also has overlooked their great strategic importance. The Japanese had started industry, had built roads, water systems, and the like, which the United States has let fall into disrepair. Recently, many Peace Corps people have been sent there, and they are doing a fine job, but much remains to be done. In addition to the Peace Corps teachers, there are contract teachers who are sent out by the United States government. Peace Corps people do many things. My daughter and her husband both teach English in the schools. Most of the children do not know English when they start school. Kit and Greg have been working hard to build up a library for the children and young people. A start had been made by previous Peace Corps groups. They work in the library 2 nights a week, and Kit tells stories to the smaller ones. The children are most enthusiastic, and the library is heavily used. They need books badly. Because English is not their native tongue, they need easy reading books, books with high interest, and picture books, or books with good illustrations. When the Student Council first thought that they might sponsor a drive for the Children's Library on Rota, I wrote Kit, and she was most enthusiastic and was going to send slides of the children, the school, and the library, and at the same time send a synchronized tape describing for you, the children, the school, and the library. However, before she had time to do this, disaster struck the tiny island in the form of a typhoon, Typhoon Gilda. The eye of the storm went directly over the island, causing intensive damage. 80% of the buildings and houses were destroyed, and 100% damage inflicted in some way. The library is no more. I do not know if the books survived or not, but they will need books more than ever. You may say, why send books when they need other things more? However, people from Guam and other nearby islands have sent food and clothing, and Kit says they have plenty of food and clothing. What they badly need is building materials, but I think we will have to leave that up to someone else. Because Kit was unable to send me the slides and tape as originally planned, I've had to improvise a little. I'm going to show you some slides we had received before the typhoon, which will give you some idea of the island. I will tell you something about the slides. After the slides, we will hear a short tape recording, which we've just received from Kit, describing going through the Typhoon Gilda, and being in the Typhoon cave. You can now understand why they need books. We're not talking or asking for new books, but for books which you have outgrown. Of course, you can bring new books, if you so desire, but do remember that these children do not speak English naturally and need books suitable to them. In the hall, we have some examples of books which might be suitable.